Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2023. I hope you are well. I'm using the Crow Tarot for you today. Just before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. Second link is to the 6-month overviews. Run from January to June 2023, so obviously we're quite a bit through that period. I have reduced the prices accordingly, so if that's of interest to you, we still have a couple of months left in that. I will be thinking about starting the next set of 6-month overviews very, very soon, actually. You know what to do. It's that link down there. The third link is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on Circle. Chock full of outstanding human beings, and you get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost, and we're lining up some classes over there as well. So if you're interested, avail yourself of that link. So let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Libra. Can I have 3 cards for Libra, please? Ooh, there's the first one. We have the Page of Pentacles in your recent past. Current energy, please, for Libra. We have the King of Swords. That's your king. It's Aquarius, but it is the air sign king. And what about what's coming towards Libra for May? We have the Ace of Cups. There it is. Right. 8 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Let's flip this around so you can see what I'm looking at there. Now, the 8 of Pentacles, as I'm sure you're all aware, relates to work. It relates to which is to say, what it is that you do to earn money, but can also talk about work in a broader sense, that which you have done over and over again, like the grind, that allows you to achieve mastery over something. So that can be, some sort of physical skill. But it can also be something as abstract as mindfulness, getting in touch with yourself and what you think and how you operate. Being aware of your the way that you might project, which stops you then from doing it in future. It's a card of improvement, I think, and self-improvement almost certainly. So let's get some clarifiers out here and see what's going on. Sorry about the grimacing and whatnot. I have 2 very, very fat and currently going black knees from a snowboarding incident. Oh, fuck. So, yeah, if I pull faces, that's what that's about. I'm trying to keep them straight, but anyway, tell me about the Page of Pentacles, please. There's the Page of Pentacles here for Libra. Ooh. There we go. We have the Hanged Man. That's Pisces energy for me. And we have the Sun in reverse. Ooh, that's interesting. That's Leo energy. Tell me about the King of Swords. We have the Knight of Pentacles, so we've got some progress going on here. King of Swords. And we've got the 10 of Swords. Tell me about the Ace of Cups, please. We've got 2 of Swords. What else? Ooh, a whole lot of cards. So we've got the 2 of Swords. We have the Chariot. And we have the 10 of Cups. That's pretty cool. To the side, I'm not going to take them, but I am going to show you. We've got Temperance and Judgment. Sagittarius and Scorpio energy respectively. And somewhat picking up on the theme that I'm getting kind of running through these cards here. Because the Temperance card talks about, in amongst other things, it talks about balance and it talks about moderation, in fact. Certainly a sense of achieving some sort of equilibrium. We see these mountains in the background, and there is implied in this card with the crown sitting above it that we have gone through something that is challenging and arrived at this place that is far more peaceful. So, we've got the angel pouring from one cup into another, but the angel is possessed of both cups, right? It's about filling your own cup first, that being very, very important. And the things that flow from that, although this is a fire card, obviously representing Sagittarius, there's always this sense of transmutation in here. Things have been difficult, things have been fiery, action has been required, and now we've come to a place of peace where we can just allow those things to really assimilate into our consciousness, the lessons that we have learned from whatever these mountains in the background represent. But we also have the Judgment card. Now, it would be remiss of me not to point out that at the point of recording this, we are currently in a Mercury retrograde. And the Judgment card can talk about, a second go at things. It speaks about rebirth, ultimately. But this second go that we have at things can sometimes be this emotional or intellectual second go at things, where we look to bring about some sort of completion, some sort of ending. Something that's been left untidy is now being tidied up. And further, what happens in this Judgment card is that we are given an opportunity to live another day with the wisdom that we have accrued, and then by extension change our life in some sort of meaningful way. It's a big old card, the Judgment card, and one that speaks to, just as this Eight of Pentacles is talking about it, improvements, dedication to being better tomorrow than you are today, that sort of thing. So, although I'm not going to take them, I think that they're quite interesting and they're worthy of mention. Now, we have the Nine of Wands at the bottom of the deck there. Now, the Nine of Wands can speak variously about boundaries, but it can also talk to, it can speak to resilience. It's another Sagittarius card there, and so there's a heightened awareness around something, and I suspect it's to do with this Ten of Swords here. But also the Ten of Cups. We've got two cards of completion appearing in quick succession, one after the other. And I do think that there's some sort of perception change that is going on here. I mean, we see that in the Hanged Man. But this Nine of Wands, together with the Eight of Pentacles, is speaking to the way in which your character is being moulded by the experiences that you have. It's making you stronger. It's allowing you to really dig in and achieve a depth of understanding of self that isn't generally available without these kind of experiences. Now, I realise I'm talking kind of vague terms, so let's try and shape it up a little bit, sharpen it up a little bit. And we'll start with your recent past and what's been going on here, right? We have the Page of Pentacles with the Hanged Man and the Sun in reverse. Now, the Page of Pentacles for me is about taking something that you already have, and this is true across all of the pages for me, taking something that you already have and guiding it off in a different direction, right? Allowing yourself to explore an alternate path with the resources that you have, whether they are emotional or mental or possibly material, as we see here. And allowing them to be shaped and moulded by new perspectives that are coming in. Now, the Page of Pentacles can often indicate, as I said there, resources, and they are energetic resources rather than strictly material. Now, it can be about where you put your money, for sure, and it could be the possibility of exploring, wouldn't necessarily be a whole new job, but perhaps bringing in new responsibilities in a job that you do have. It's often known as the card of the student. And so it could be a card of focusing on something new, improving skills that you already have, taking them in a new direction. But with this Hanged Man, it does rather speak to somewhat of a volte-face on what you thought your path was versus where now it appears that it is going, if that makes sense. Because the Hanged Man is about willing submission. It is about, in some cases, it's about sacrifice, but it's about that voluntary submission to seeing the world in a different perspective, from a different perspective, so that we can achieve wisdom. And that's why the halo appears around the Hanged Man's head. It's a very passive card. It's not talking about, literally running off at 90 degrees from where you were going. It's an internal card of looking at things from a different perspective. And then we have the Sun in reverse. Now, that's quite intriguing. Obviously, it represents Leo, as I've already said. But The Sun card is such a powerful card of positivity that even when appearing in the reverse, it still has really positive connotations. Now, it also speaks to, well, it speaks to vulnerability, first and foremost, and innocence. I mean, we see this in the white horse, but we also see it in the naked child. You know, it's just the sun's rays hitting it and being warm enough for it to just toddle around naked and not give any quarter to the idea that it's in any way under threat. But in the best tradition of all tarot cards, there is no card that is all good or all bad. Certainly not in the short term, because this can also talk about a certain amount of innocence and naivete rather than, you know, just innocence that has been at play in something that you've been dealing with, where perhaps the hope that things would just work out, everything would be just fine. It seems like there's a realization that now you see things from a different perspective. You can see that it's not all fun, it's not all light, it's not all joy, and in fact, somewhere along the line, you have been a little bit naive about the way that you are perceiving the situation that you're in. I mean, the sun for me also talks about consciousness, right? The sun in astrology is given to be the expression of your soul. And I feel like whatever's been going on for you in the last few weeks, because when I say recent past, I mean it can literally be this morning before you started watching this video, or it can be, you know, 6 weeks out from here, 6 weeks back. It seems to me that there is an understanding that somewhere along the line you've been a bit naive about something, possibly, in fact, even a little bit childish about your perception of how a situation is playing out. And the fact that the Page of Pentacles is here means that you've got an opportunity to almost revisit, not almost, actually revisit, where you find yourself right now, in the changing of the narrative of where you have been. Now, for some of you, I mean, this could be a really profound situation, you know. It could be that you are engaged in some really deep self-work at the moment, and you've realised that the narrative that you have held about your past, right, that the origin story of Libra, if you will, has all been viewed from the perspective of a child. And now there's an opportunity for you to view it from the perspective of an adult, and it's possible for you to start adjusting things as they relate to the way that you understand the world, your place in the world, even understanding where that negative self-critic is always chuntering away in the background, you know, and understanding that perhaps that isn't even yours at all. It's been instilled there by someone who, you know, was hanging around in your formative years. I mean, I hate to bring this back to parents every time, but your parents really do fuck you up. It's their job. In amongst also trying to keep you alive to your 18th birthday, you know, that sort of thing, well-fed, educated, all that sort of stuff. There seems to be some sort of shift in the internal narrative of your origin story, and it's freshening up the way in which you move forwards from here. Now, let me pull that Sun in reverse. Fucking hell. We've got the Queen of Swords. There you are. And that's very important because the Queen of Swords is Libra. So we've got a very authentic stamp of your energy right here, which is why it feels to me there's a lot of self-exploration going on here. But she's also about discernment, right? And the Queen of Swords will not tolerate any bullshit. And well, I hate to say it, when it comes down to it, like, we are our own biggest bullshit merchants. And it often comes back to this origin story. Now, the facts of your origin story may be absolutely correct and nailed down, but when you understand that you've been viewing them from the perspective of a child, even if you are now sitting in your twilight years, it can be quite the revelation. to realise that there is context that you can put around this, that there are ways in which you can, if appropriate, forgive people who have done you wrong and had your mind thinking in the wrong way because it's been conditioned to do so. But also just realise where you may have been holding yourself back. What is the origin of the phrase "I can't" in you? Where does it come from? Where does the fear come from, if you have some? Yeah. And if you felt like you had a complete lack of fear, like the Sun card would represent here, then where is this new sense of fear coming from as your paradigm is beginning to change somewhat? Because that can tell you a lot about what is happening in your subconscious and holding you back. Tell me about this Sun card, please. Page of Pentacles again. Yeah, like it's this sense of a new start, but also you being the person to study you and come to a new truth. There we have the Ace of Swords. Now, the way that the Ace of Swords differs to, say, the Page of Swords for me, because I said the pages are about new starts, right? They are that initiatory energy. Well, the aces are like the initiatory energy on steroids, basically. The pages take something that you already have and they adjust it, they amend it, they evolve it, they expand it in some sort of way. The aces are pure potential. So this is something very, very new to you. And it's all about a new truth that you have come to. Now, it's interesting that we have the... fuck off. My car's due to be insured, and I swear to God, I've been spammed to fuck by Adrian Flux for the last fucking week. And it's really annoying. Anyway. Ten of Pentacles. Now, the Ten of Pentacles, as well as sometimes called the Inheritance card, it's sometimes called the Happy Family too. And we can see that, everybody's kind of milling around. It's a very kind of Tuscan scene. It's very nice. Got dogs around and children and people of all ages, animals. There's that sense of kind of the harmony of the collective. But what the Ten of Pentacles also talks about to me, in addition to completion, because this is now the third card of completion that we have here, is that origin story that I was talking about. Because for me, this is a snapshot of where heritage and legacy collide. We've got all of the things that went into the creation of this building, the acquisition of this building, the moving in of the family to this building, the children that were born into this building. And then, by extension, the legacy of what is left behind for the next generation. It is, in its most simplistic form, what you have inherited and what it is that you're letting back out into the world. There seems to have been such a focus here on weeding out anything that is incongruent to the sense of self that you are trying to cultivate at this point. It really is trying to get back to oneself. And so here, this card often I think about in terms of generational karma. It could well be that you're realizing where this is playing itself out, right? Where you have been an unwitting, what's the word? It's a word that starts with P. It's perpetrator. There we go. Well, that's quite a savage word, isn't it? An unwitting perpetrator of something that you inherited that was quite painful for you, that you have adapted to, adjusted to, learned to, and then perpetuated moving forwards. This is quite a profound set of realizations that you're having here. And it's leading you to a new truth. Now, the King of Swords appears right here, and he's very, very welcome. I think in your present energy, he's very, very welcome, because not least of these two cards here, the Queen and the Ace of Swords. The Queen being the one who goes through all of the information, and then in at least the story that I have in my head about how the interplay between the different court hierarchies work, before passing it off to the King to make final judgment on this. Judgment. Interesting card there. You know, he's the final arbiter rather, of a subconscious decision that has come to consciousness for you. Now, whether that is because you're looking to improve yourself through self-work, I think that's certainly part of it, or whether this has just sort of happened holistically, you know, the natural response to a chain of events that have you kind of looking within and examining self. Because the King of Swords thinks very clearly about things, and he can do, because the Queen of Swords has weeded out anything that is not relevant to the story moving forwards. So, you know, she takes in all of the information, she goes through it, very efficient, before, you know, handing it over to the king, going, here is everything that is relevant. Now, what is your decision based on this? And we've got the Knight of Pentacles here. Now, the other thing that I should say about the Page of Pentacles is, for me, it's often about discovering the value of something, and I think that that would be a natural corollary of the process that you seem to have been going through here, newly arriving at a sense of self that did not exist before. And this Knight of Pentacles is saying, well, that's not a static position anymore. I need to change the way that I think about things, the way that I judge things, the decisions that I make in light of this new information that I have about the value of me. You know, that Sun card in reverse could be a realization that you have spent far too much time chasing the validation of others, or indeed, with this Ten of Pentacles here, perpetuating some sort of judgment over other people that is unwarranted. You're to take it as it resonates to you, right? But this Knight of Pentacles is saying, right, well, I'm not going to let this be static. Now I have to do something about it. And what's really interesting is that you arrive almost instantly at the Ten of Swords. Now, you know, the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Cups are far more pleasant cards of culmination and endings than the Ten of Swords. This is this can indicate betrayal. It can indicate, you know, really, really painful endings. But in some ways, I feel like the Ten of Swords is a very welcome card, if we look at it the right way. Back to the Hanged Man. If we look at it the right way, because although there is an ending, and although it is painful and it is challenging, probably being very mentally taxing, this chap has turned towards the dawn, and there is this sense that, you know, rock bottom really is rock bottom. Right? Now, I'm not saying that you're all kind of, you know, wandering around homeless and stuff like that. I mean, it's that kind of rock bottom when we come to like a cast iron realization about the way that we have behaved, or that we have subconsciously engaged with the world, as opposed to this new level of enlightenment that we've achieved, right? That shows us that perhaps, like with the Eight of Swords and the Nine of Swords, we have worried needlessly about the wrong things, or we have felt trapped by the wrong situation, or even that we've just thought about things in a really, really linear fashion, and it's time to start expanding that out. You know, just as we have the Sun card here, we've got the imminence of the sun around, you know, about to crest the horizon and start providing illumination on a landscape. It's a card of being able to start again, ultimately, and that seems to be something that's coming through a lot here in this. So there's a need to almost weather the difficulty of the Ten of Swords. You know, for some of you, you might be doing shadow work, and you just come across a couple of things that you just really don't enjoy. But I mean, that's the point of shadow work right there. It's to identify these things and then make friends with them, actually. So that's Ten of Swords. High Priestess. Now, it's more indication, if anyone needed, that this has been a very internal journey for you. But again, as with the other Piscean card for me of the Hanged Man, what we've got here is an increase in wisdom. This is the almost like the journey in attaining that wisdom, right? The maturity to understand that the way that you see things isn't necessarily the way that things are, and turning yourself upside down to check and see, you know, what that is. But the High Priestess is arriving at a place whereby understanding has been achieved and knowledge accrued, and therefore, by extension, wisdom acquired, because wisdom is the application of knowledge. So I remember reading a thing once saying that knowledge was understanding that the tomato was a fruit, and wisdom was not trying to put it in a fruit salad. And I think that that's a really beautiful way of just, you know, enunciating the difference. And the question of whether, at this point, it's highly likely that the wisdom is still trying to bed in. You know, you have a set of perhaps fairly discrete data sets, if you will, that relate to the way that you've been thinking, the way that you make your decisions, you know, where you've been putting perhaps your loyalty, or you know, investing friendship, investing in family and all that kind of thing, that is starting to change shape. But it's not quite there yet. It's coming, but it's not quite there yet. Because ultimately, with this Ace of Cups here, the end result, first and foremost, is to improve the relationship that you have with yourself. Now, it's a natural corollary that as that relationship improves, all other relationships will improve in your life. But it's such a deep month for you. You know, it has been deep, and it continues to be deep moving forwards. You know, this is very welcome, just as the Ace of Swords is, because this is the, you know, the intellectual appreciation of a truth that you have now discovered. But the Ace of Cups would be the emotional application of that. So whether you need to forgive yourself, you know, extend some compassion towards yourself, sit in a state of peace with yourself, instead of, you know, whipping yourself over and over again about mistakes that you possibly might have made, or even a sense of responsibility that you feel for the mistakes that other people have made, because Libra is very focused on other people, generally speaking. You know, this is a very gentle kind of pulling it back to you, and it's starting to really take shape in the month of May. Now we have the Two of Swords, we have the Chariot. Oh shit, I just set fire to my own hair, Libra, what the fuck. Put that over there. I have to say, actually, that happens a little more often than I'm comfortable admitting, but there we go. What we've got here is a process that is really taking shape over the course of May for you. So, you know, this is the overarching theme, the Ace of Cups, and it's very, very important. But it starts with an understanding that there are things that you do not know, there are things that you do not see, and you do not see because it suits your subconscious not to be able to see those, right? A lot of this here has been about tapping into the idea that there may be things that you don't know. There may be things about the way that you do stuff that is less than optimal, right? That is being revealed to you here at this time. This Two of Swords, it's about understanding that your emotions play much more of a role in your life than you have really given them credit for. You know, as an air sign, and a very quick-witted air sign, there's almost a default to the intellectual, to the rational, to the reasonable. It's how you make sense of the world. But with the new things that are starting to come up for you, I feel like there's a realization that that possibly in and of itself has been what is problematic. You know, if you spent a lot of your life justifying certain things to yourself that you now realize are unjustifiable, for example, it's a recognition of where the Two of Swords has been at play. I call this willful ignorance, this card, which is a little bit brutal, but she's sitting with her back to the water, she's sitting with her back to the moon. She has, further, put a blindfold over her eyes, and And she's sitting there with two swords. And the two swords are, you know, the intellect and the decision that needs to be made, actually, often. But purely intellectual. When there's all of this information behind her that she could tap into if she wanted to. And a huge part of that is her emotions. Emotions very important. Intuition almost secondarily important, because without your emotions being straight, you just can't access your intuition in a kind of meaningful way. I've got a whole set of reasons why I think that that's the case, but we'll save those for another time, right? She has put the blindfold on herself. She has chosen to seat herself away from her emotions and away from her intuition. And the realization in May is that your emotions have much more to say about the situations that you're in than you've ever allowed them to communicate to you. Now, in the first instance, one must be concerned about why there is such a level of emotional repression that has been going on. I really do feel like this whole situation here is leading up to the realization that there is this incredible emotional repression. And then the question remains, like, well, why? Why have you done that? Why have you allowed that to happen? For some of you, it will be because you have been told that you are overly sensitive, and that somewhere along the line that has been shown to be a characteristic of you that has no particular value as far as your family relationships were concerned, right? It's something very shadowy about this this whole reading here, and if you haven't seen them, I would direct you to the Solve et Coagula video, so you know what I'm really talking about. But essentially, what we're looking at is in a group situation, and particularly in your formative years when you're very young, there's a certain amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? This one starts with a C. A certain amount of, oh fuck, what's the word? Compliance. It's not the word that I'm looking for, but it'll do. Compliance with an established order. So, you know, whether you've been born into, say, a military family where emotional stuff is kind of disgusting and is not encouraged in any way, right? You grow to understand that in order to be accepted by this group dynamic, and it is a matter of life and death when you are small, you need to bury that part of you, right? You have to distance yourself from that as far as possible, because that increases your chances of acceptance from the group, right? The problem is that you go into adult life and you're continuing that, and maybe you've had children and you've perpetuated that too. Just for example, maybe something really traumatic happened to you and you were told that you were being silly or oversensitive, right? These things would have an effect. The important thing is, somewhere, Libra, your emotions have been completely repressed, and there's been a reason for it. And it's not been for your greater good, it's not been for your well-being. It's been probably for the sake of covering up other people's insecurities, or, you know, projections, or other people's wonky view of the world that has been caused by their own experiences. But with the Chariot card here, it feels like a lot of things are being pulled into balance for you in the month of May, right? And in the first instance, it's because you have to recognise where the repression has occurred, right? You need to see what you're dealing with before you can start healing from it, right? Before you can start applying your logical mind to what it is that emotionally you have experienced. You know, in some ways, it could be that you were told that emotions were childish. We don't do that sort of thing here, you know, stiff upper lip and all that sort of stuff, right? British are very all about that. It feels in some way that there's been a recognition of something that has been stolen from you on account of that, and then an absolute desire to put it back. a recognition of the importance of exploring your own emotions, because they are fundamentally part of you. They are not you. They're something that is transitory and something that is fleeting. But you're always going to get much more information from them when you allow them to pass through you. You can observe them without judgment. And then let them go, because they tell you a lot about what's happening with you. I think without that important bit of information, how is it possible to know yourself? And knowing yourself seems to be something that is really at the top of your priority list at the moment. But the Chariot is about pulling everything into alignment, recognizing the polarities of you, whether they are, negative and dark, or whether they're positive and light. And quite often people have issues with both, right? They fail to see the good things about themselves, and they absolutely want to distance themselves from the things that they don't like about themselves, and they end up kind of living in this sort of space in the middle, where it's about trying to reject any notion of something that they recognize within themselves. It's creating fronts and all that sort of stuff. And what we want is authenticity moving forwards, Libra. I mean, the cosmological weather of this last few years and the next couple of years to come is very much about finding who you are, living authentically. And the Chariot card is helping you do that, because this card, for me, any word that you can prefix self onto the front of is represented by this card. So we have things like self-discipline and self-motivation, but we also have self-knowledge, self-worth. It's about exploring all parts of you and coming to the realization that the rejection of any of it puts you at a state of disadvantage, and has perhaps put you at a state of disadvantage over your entire life. The Chariot also covers determination, motivation, goal setting and victory and success. And with that Temperance card and the Judgment card that came out at the beginning of the reading, it really does feel like there's a determination to heal what up until this point had been completely occluded from you. It was difficult to know what was wrong with you. Maybe you weren't even sure that there was something wrong with you, right? And there's something wrong with all of us. Maybe you've needed to be right all of the time. And you don't know why, but so much of your identity is bound up for you in being right, that your ego would shatter to bits if you were wrong about something. There's just one example of it. Maybe it's realizing that, things aren't always logical and rational, and that's okay. More importantly, you aren't always logical and you aren't always rational, and that's okay too, because you're honouring the other side of the energetic coin, as it were. The thing is, with this Ten of Cups here, I feel like this is where you are wanting to take yourself. Now, it could be in its most simplistic form that actually what you want to do is take yourself closer to family, right? Maybe you've realised that you're too isolated, you're too out of the way, and you actually want to be with the people that make you feel good about yourself. And family obviously isn't just restricted to those who are related to you by blood, right? It's the people that feel like home to you, whether that's friends, whether that's people who've acted like family. But I think this whole month is about centering the joy. It's about centering the emotions where they've been somewhat offset for the longest time. And something has to end in order for this to happen. And it's very much an internal situation for you. It's very much about the way that you see the world. It's about the way you see your place in the world. It's the way that you feel about you in the world. And perhaps the way that you feel about other people and the way that they feel about you, But this Ten of Cups is a draw towards the people that represent family to you. I mean, it could be the whole concept of family is what's getting a do-over for you. You know, maybe the concept of family has been something that's been very, very practical. It's just, you know, that interdependence of people being around to do certain tasks and help people out, maybe even helping out with money and stuff like that. But actually, it's becoming much more emotional for you because of whatever it is that you've discovered over this time. It's the draw to community. And like I said, that doesn't have to be family, but it you know, by blood. But it's certainly family by emotion. I think that this month is going to have you begin to... Well, it's happening already. You're kind of teetering towards a decision, a life-changing decision. Now, whether this comes in May, or whether this is something that's kind of put back till till fucking June, I'm not sure. But you seem to be kind of aligning with this idea that where you are right now, where you have been for the last few years, is not actually where you need to remain. There's a pull towards a collective, whether, like I said, that's the family that you were born to, or whether that is the family that you've created for yourself. There's certainly this community vibe that we've got going on. You seem to be putting all of the energy that you have into being part of that, rather than standing aside slightly at the edge where you have been all of this time. Now, like I said, it always starts with you. It starts with the relationship that you have with you. But as you are starting to work through this relationship with you, it's going to have its expression outside. And this is kind of looking around at the people that are surrounding you, maybe in the here and now, and being all like, there is nothing from these people. What I need is my actual tribe, the people that make me feel valued, the people that that I make feel valued, you know, where that sense of value exists between us, where all of our lives are enriched by having each other in them. And I feel like you are possibly gearing up for some sort of move, Libra. Was that the fucking Tower card? It was. There, that's the Tower card. I don't think it's happening in May, but I think you're thinking about it in May, and it might not be straightforward like, well, I need to move house. It's perhaps it's coming out more of an awareness of what is missing where you are, rather than taking you towards where the things that you actually want are. Six of Pentacles in reverse, very interesting. Because the Six of Pentacles in reverse is about kind of throwing things up in the air. It is actually deliberately creating an imbalance. I think you have been shaken up internally. I think you're seeing things so differently now that you are getting ready to create some sort of upheaval in your material world, in your external world too. And it's because you're following your emotions, not following your mind. And I think that this is really, really important for your well-being moving forwards. You know, it could be that a lot of the things that are occurring to you at this point feel illogical. They feel irrational. And yet, there's a compulsion to follow it and see where it goes. And more than that, there's a desire to move things around. I mean, you might actually be actively thinking about moving, and it could be quite a big move. Either way, it's absolutely related to the size of the shift within you. So if it's just been like a little wiggle, chances are you're probably not going to do anything too major outside of you, but there's certainly a thought that is beginning to evolve over the course of May. But if there have been fairly seismic changes internally, then you can expect a corresponding shift externally too. Because you've got yourself balanced, you know what's important, but materially something needs to change to align itself with that. I think this is very interesting, Libra. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to go over to Vimeo. or circle or wherever you watch the extendeds. And we're going to have a look at May specifically. Because for some of you, you already have done some life-changing things in the last few months. You've really opened your eyes to something. But it doesn't end there. You know, there's something much more about your mundane existence that is going to be changing as a result. That's fascinating. All right, yeah, Libra. I'll stop waffling and go do the thing now. So, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.